If Slash were a horse, he'd be November, Maine. About 6 months ago, a friend of mine made the mistake of telling me that joke, and after they explained to me that this was funny because Slash is a musician who wrote a song called November Rain, and horses have manes, I decided to make them this disturbing gift. I start off by making his armature bulked out with aluminum foil. I then cover his legs and torso with a base layer of clay, then realize that since I'm making a grotesque man-horse hybrid, I should probably horsify his thighs with some big burly muscles. I've never made a leg before, but since I'm living the reckless life, I just added larger and larger ropes of clay until I had something uncomfortably beefy. I want our Slash to look like he's never skipped leg day at the horse gym, so no matter how much clay I add to his legs, it is never enough. Finally done with the musculature, I start adding the wrinkles and folds in his blue jeans, smoothing it down until I have something passably fabric adjacent. I don't really know what I'm doing here, so my strategy is to wiggle the tools about and hope it comes out halfway decent. I poke in some pocket holes into his ample backside, and then, body done, I get started on his head. The horse head starts out looking like a crocodile's, but after several hours researching the differences between horses and crocodiles, I find my aha moment and sculpt him some meaty cheek pouches. I give Slash some sniffing holes and a mouth before texturizing the face skin to make it look a little less baby smooth and a little more 80s rock star muscled. Still not satisfied with how my November mane looks like an August alligator, I add a horse head ridge that feels passably accurate. Slash gets some eyes for looking and some heavy brows and lashes that get blended into his face with a ball stylus. I forgot to click record when I made his shirt wrinkles and denim jacket, but let's pretend that everything is fine while we skip to his hair. Now, the real Slash has wonderful long curls, but I don't have the proper skills to replicate this in clay, so I wing it by making some twists of clay that get texturized with a sculpting tool. I then add some layers of liquid clay applied with a brush in an attempt to hide my mistakes and add more hair-ish texture. Oh, and his hat. It's not a sculpture of Slash without his hat. Now we can get started on his arms. I tried to stay true to Slash's musculature, which, according to my friend, did end up looking sort of like a human arm. Since horses don't have arms, I consider this a success. I then proceeded to struggle for the next 2 hours on how to make a hand. After making far too many left hands, and definitely probably remaining calm the entire time, I was finally able to attach an imperfect but good enough hand to Slash's wrist. Perfectionism used to paralyze me, but the reason I started this channel was to put imperfect things out into the world with pride, knowing full well that perfection is impossible and you might as well do your best at something rather than do nothing at all. To make a spot for Slash to stand on, I'll coat some foam in a layer of protective Mod Podge mixed with black paint. Slash broke records with his music, so since emulation is the sincerest form of flattery, I took an old scratched up record and broke it by hand. As a tip, vinyl will shatter and crack, so if you do this to make your own horror horse at home, please make sure to wear eye protection. With my Mod Podge mixture still wet, I embed the shards of record on top to make it look like November Maine is breaking the record floor with the sheer power of his music. While I have my scissors out, I'll also cut a little record out of the big record to hang on his hip. And finally, we'll make Slash's guitar. I printed out an image of one of his actual guitars, then cut out my template with clay. I carefully added all the important bits and stuff because my friend is an avid guitar enthusiast and will notice the slightest deviation in my sculpture from reality. With that in mind, I still made sure to forget the tuning pegs, but don't worry, this was definitely on purpose and not an oversight at all. Now that's done, and we're on to the painting. I'll start with my airbrush to get into all the nooks and crannies of Slash's hair, then I'll abandon the airbrush in favor of a traditional brush. I start with the skin, then work my way to the pants. I'll give him some dark blue jeans and then make his jacket a lighter shade of blue, carefully painting around his white shirt as best as I can. I touch up the details on his hat. Then I'll paint his eyes black and make them shine with some UV resin. His jacket buttons get a classy copper, and then his cigarette gets colored appropriately. My friend tells me that Slash has quit smoking for quite a time now, but since I finished this part of the video before I knew that, it's staying as is, even though I know that it will harm the health of his clay lungs. I move on to painting his guitar, trying to stay as close to my photo reference as possible. painting almost finished, I spruced things up with several layers of washes, both on the guitar and on November Main. The washes hopefully seep into the texture and give more life to the paint. With that, we finish our sculpture and we're on to the reveal.